Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Like I said, this evening we are about to be joined by someone incredibly special, Anjum Chopra. So
Finally,
for
finally, finally.
finally, so for our centennial audiences, let me just put
Yeah.
out a refresher. So Anjum is a left-handed batswoman and a right-hand medium fast-paced bowler who was given the captaincy of the Indian women's cricket team in the year 2002, and she held that position for 17 years. Under Anjum's captaincy, of course, India attained a cascade of accolades. For instance, the team recorded their first overseas test victory. Anjum Chopra is the first Indian woman to score a the first
Yeah.
woman to play 100 ODIs, the first to play 6 World Cups for India, which of course includes 4 ODI World Cups and 2 T20Is. She was also the first captain to win a test series abroad, which was the South Africa versus India match in 2002, and the first captain to record a series whitewash over England in 2002. So that's a lot of firsts. But not just that, you're also a role model to most of our current crop of cricketers today. So Anjum, thank you for joining us. It's an honor and a privilege to have you here with us today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Just a little small correction. I wasn't captain of Indian team for 17 years. I have been captain in the middle. I was when you rightly mentioned 2002. Then not by my choice, but by the selector's choice, they decided to hand it over to somebody else. And then towards the end,
You will return.
the last part, yes, that's right. So I'll say it's just a partial correction to that. So the starting and the ending has been pretty much all right. So well done.
Okay, so let me just reel it back to the
Yeah.
beginning for you. So
Hmm.
many might not know that sports runs in your family. Your father
Hmm.
is a golfer and your mother is the winner of a Goodyear car rally. Your brother has represented Delhi in under 17 and under 19 cricket. Your uncle is a former cricketer and your maternal grandfather was an athlete and later a cricket commentator. I want to know, did that make it easier for you to enjoy the game while growing up? Or would it at some point get annoying since everyone around you hailed from the sports business and they all probably had something to say about, you know, you?
No, it wasn't difficult at all. In fact, it was easier because people understood the sport. And look, it's always what your immediate family thinks about you as a sports person and how they support you as a sports person. I think everybody else has their opinions. So fortunately for me, those opinions didn't matter because I, as you rightly mentioned, belong to a family of sports people. So that culture of sports was always around and it was respected and understood. So it wasn't difficult at all. And I think largely it has to be the support from the family. That's the only way that you can go on and play a sport.
Yeah. So, Anjum, you hail from New Delhi. You completed your
Yeah.
schooling from Delhi Public School, R.K. Puram, and later went to St.
Hmm.
Stephen's College. You also
Hmm.
hold an MBA degree with dual specialization in marketing and human resources. Now, the
Hmm.
reason I bring up marketing is because it seems as if cricket's playing format changes dramatically every few years. We've gone
Yeah.
from test series to ODIs to T20 to IPL. Now, with the current COVID 19 crisis, it seems like the game is about to see some significant changes yet again.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so important for a game, especially one that's as popular as cricket, to
Hmm.
constantly be reinvented?
Well, I think right now at the moment, the reinvention is happening because of this COVID situation. And look, when you can't have a crowd anywhere, whether it's in a cinema hall or be it in a stadium, then you can't have it. And that's plain and simple. I don't think that's the reason why you should be changing the sport or the rules of the game around. Yes, I know that there've been some interactions, there've been some views exchanged that why don't let's change the format, let's bring in some innovation. That's all right. I mean, as far as discussion points are concerned, that's perfectly fine. We can keep it to the discussion points. But when you actually think of implementing those discussion points and see the practicality of it, I think it cannot be done so very easily. And I don't think it should be done. It's not required. Why do you need to tinker around with the game? Because the situation that we are all in is not because of the game, it's because of other reasons beyond sport. So let the sport be. Whenever the situation sorts itself out, or whenever we are in a much better living environment, I'm sure People will come back to the grounds, people will come back to the stadiums, and we should be able to enjoy the sport as we've done before we saw the start of COVID-19.
And when do you think that's going to be, given the current scenario and all of those things? Do you have any predictions as to when you think
No,
all of
I
this will get
don't.
back to normal?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, don't have that crystal ball. I only believe in a word called hope, and I'm hopeful that when things do settle down, whenever it's the right time for it to settle down. Because look, I don't know when it got created. I just know that we have all got impacted, and we've all got impacted in a very big way. So I'm just living in that hope that it gets sorted out pretty soon, and let's get back to normalcy if that was normal for us, because this definitely in restriction mode is not normal for us.
Yeah. So, in a career that is spread out over several years, there must have been some great moments. When you look back and think about,
Hmm.
say, your first time traveling to compete overseas or your first playoff against an international team, is there a story or a memory that stands out? Like which countries were the toughest to play with, etc.?
I think the best memory or the best thing to happen is to play for the country, because that's unparalleled and that's unmeasurable. It cannot be replicated, and it will always stay with me, irrespective of how many people go on and play for India. Uh, you know, for me, my India cap, that moment will always remain very, very dear to me, because everybody doesn't get that luxury. What
Yeah.
at least I can say that I received or I was blessed, still am. So I think I have that luxury of saying that I've been an India player. So that moment always remains very, very special. Yes, I think a lot of firsts, as you mentioned, but apart from that, the very first match I went out to play and we got a victory for the Indian team, the very first half century, first century, many firsts. I think all of them are pretty special, and they will always remain very, very dear and close to the heart, because, as I said, not many people in our country, especially more than 1 billion people, how many people can say that they've represented India and gone on to play World Cup? So I think that'll always remain special.
Okay. So, is there anything in particular that stands out when, the first time the team went abroad? And there's a very charming scene in Chak De India where all of
Hmm.
the players are in this massive cafeteria, and
Yeah,
the squad is looking at, different players from different countries eating
yeah.
different kinds of foods, and it's sort of like a culture shock. So, I want to ask you, did the Indian squad experience something similar?
I think one more scene was there when they saw a lot of people running around and swimming in that pool and being in that gym. So that was another scene. So yeah, you missed
Yeah.
that scene, but yes, that's one of those scenes which initially when my first tour when I went abroad with the Indian team was in '95, and there I saw a few. I won't say that I entered a gym like that. The movie scene is there. No, I didn't, because I didn't know what a gym was till 1995. Till the time I played for India, I was only training. I was training, but I had never seen what a gym looked like. Whatever training our trainers used to put us through, that is what we were. At least I was aware of. So that was something different when I saw all ages of people walking in and out of a gym, and there was a culture of fitness. People used to, really take fitness seriously, walk on the street, irrespective of what time it is. We've, at least not now, but earlier, we were always tuned to the fact that early morning is the best time for a walk. And I used to see people running on the streets in New Zealand in the evening as well. So that was something different that I, experienced. And then in '99, when when I went to England, that's the time I saw a lot of something similar to what the movie definitely showed, but not such a big shock. But yes, it's just an awareness. That's a part of the exposure as well. When you travel abroad as a team, whatever you've been doing back home and the different techniques that other international teams and players deploy to master their game and become better, that's the difference that we get to see.
Yeah. Okay, so Anjum, I know that you strongly believe in equality and women's empowerment, and you've also over the years participated in many events to promote women in games. But what
Hmm.
stands out to me is your
Hmm.
docudrama, Poor Cousins of $1 Million Babies, which, for those of you who are not aware, is a film that talks about the state of women's cricket team when the movie was made, and shows how the squad was content playing the sport and enjoyed the camaraderie that they shared with each other despite the glaring disparity between the men and the women's cricket teams. So, I want to know, while you are used to seeing yourself on the screen, this must have been a very different kind of experience for you. So do you remember what it was like getting pitched to do this and your initial thoughts when you looked at yourself on the screen? Can you just talk us through that whole process?
Well, actually, it was a docudrama, and most of the shots that, or rather, most of the movie, apart from a few interviews that we shot later on, is everything very real. It's from that footage which, over the years, I and many other players, with their handycams, with their cameras, have taken footage when we've gone on a tour, whether we're in a bus, in a dressing room, on the ground, all that kind of footage which you don't get to see because you're only seeing what's happening on the ground. So this docudrama was actually made compiling all that footage collected over a period of really 3 or 4 tours over a period of more than a year. And then we decided to compile it and do a little bit of voiceover over it, but give it a meaning. Four protagonists of that film in that docudrama. So for me, it was more of giving an interview because I'd already shot most of it. So, but it was a nice experience. You're very right in saying that 2010 was the time that we released it. And at that point of time, it was actually Poor Cousins of Million Dollar Babies. Now, probably the situation has changed drastically. But yes, at that point of time, it was definitely a very apt title.
But it's also, on one hand, such a brave thing to put yourself so raw and emotionally out there. That which I suppose parallels with cricket, because when you go on the field, you're really, in a sense, giving it your all, and it's just a very raw emotion to be on the field. And so
Hmm.
I suppose in that sense there is some sort of common ground between the two. But I must say it was such a moving and in some ways frustrating watch to see that there is so much potential here. This is something that can be great. So, it's just on some levels a little bit sad, a little bit frustrating, but also ultimately very hopeful. So that was a really great docu-series, and I recommend everyone check it out. Anjum, if you can just help people figure out where they can actually watch the movie, I think that'll be great.
They'll have to contact the director for that presently.
Okay,
I do have a copy of it. I don't know
okay.
what's the status of it at the moment, but yeah,
To
they'll
be
have to.
decided. To be decided. So,
No, yeah, yeah.
Anjum, you're the recipient of a Padma Shri, which was awarded to you in 2014. The Government of
Hmm.
India also awarded you with an Arjuna Award in 2007 for your outstanding achievement in sports. There are gates and stadiums named after you. In fact,
Only
I
one
could go
gate.
on.
Only one
I
gate.
could, but that said, I could go on about an illustrating resume like yours. So it's clear that you're an inspiration to many, but you're still going strong professionally, commentating and batting for women's visibility in sports. I want to know that at the core of it, what is it that inspires you? How does someone who seemingly has it all continue to strive for greatness?
I think it's self-motivation and about striving and trying to become better each day. So look, whatever laurels I've earned, yes, I work towards them and I wanted to earn those laurels. And probably each time I've reached a milestone, my target has always gone higher and higher, or probably further and further. I won't say higher, but it's always gone further, and that's practically been the story. I mean, there's no point resting back on your laurels and saying, "Look, one fine day, I had done that." It's rather that you keep in motion, in momentum, and keep striving and trying to become better. Because there are still so many things that, as an individual, as a former cricketer or as a present commentator, I can achieve more, and I would like to do more as well. So the idea is to keep moving and becoming better each day.
That is inspiring. I have to say at this point that you have been a personal hero for me growing up. So, usually, while I'm very poised doing interviews, this time I'm a little frazzled. So, just want to put it out there
That makes me
again
feel
that
very happy. Not many people say that. So thank you so much.
so we've spoken about how you come from a sports family, but you yourself
Yeah.
have not just played cricket. You've been fascinated by all forms of sports, representing your
Hmm.
school and your college in
Hmm.
athletics, basketball, and swimming. In fact, you
Yeah.
were also the member of the Delhi State basketball team that competed at the nationals. So, can you talk about the importance of having some kind of physical activity in your life, especially given that today most of us live very sedentary lifestyles and
Hmm.
even more so in the lockdown?
I think it's, as I said, it's about being active. In school, I didn't have a women's cricket team, so girls didn't practice cricket, and most of school was very limited. Nowadays the kids go to school at 8 a.m. and return at 4. Fortunately for us, that wasn't the scenario. We used to be in school at 6:30, quarter to 7, and be back at 1 o'clock. So you had practically half the day to yourself. And at that point of time, there wasn't women's cricket being played in my school, so I had to come back and then go for my training. But because I was in school, so they were pretty much encouraging for me to take to other sports, and I personally also liked to be out onto the field rather than stay in class and understand mathematics, which was obviously more difficult than going out there and understand how to score goals and how to swim across. So I found that more interesting, and that's the reason probably I continued playing. Probably because, I used to play in school, and then in second half of the day I used to go and play cricket. So that kind of an active lifestyle just got very comfortable with me and has stayed right through as well. So even today, if I don't go out there and exercise, it feels very incomplete. And I'm happy that at least we had especially during those lockdown days, I had the luxury of planning out my training schedules according to what I wanted to do. Otherwise, it's been very much flat and standard. Before work, you do a certain set of exercises. So it's just about maintaining yourself and being and keep reminding yourself that you might be aging, but at the same time, you have to keep changing your exercise according to what you are and what you're doing.
Do you have any tips for those who are stuck at home, want to be fit, but don't know where to begin as a sports person? Do you have any simple sort of exercises to kind
I
of
think you've said the
give
right
them the
word.
push?
You started by saying the right word. Who want to be fit and don't know how to begin. So I think if you want to be fit, so first start stepping out of your luxury zones, comfort zones, and start taking a walk. Forget about taking a run and going for a 5 mile jog. It's about taking a step out, wearing your sneakers, and consciously stepping out at least for the next 3 days at the same time, or whichever time is comfortable for you, and going out there for a walk for at least 5 minutes. I think at least the first step is the hardest, and then after that, the whole story can be written.
Fantastic. Guys, I hope you all are listening. Words of wisdom over here from Anjum Chopra. So I want to throw the floor open. There are some questions that have
Hmm.
come in for you
Hmm.
from our readers. So I'd
Yeah,
like to ask you some of those if you don't mind. So the
sure.
first question is from Ridge. He says,
Hmm.
would you like to see a full-fledged IPL tournament for women? And his second question is, what is your opinion about shorter pitches and smaller, lighter cricket balls to encourage attacking cricket?
So yes, I would love to see a full-fledged women's IPL. And this year, if the IPL had happened on the dates that it was planned out in March and April, we would have seen 7 games being played out. We would have had 4 teams this year. So from the previous 2 years, this year the number of teams, every year the teams have been increasing, and this year would have seen 4 teams. So that's a plus. I'm sure as we go along, we'll have more matches and more teams participating. So yes, it's a full-fledged women's IPL will be wonderful to see taking place in India. The second question is if I'd like to see changes. Well, for me, I don't look if for a discussion purpose. There's no harm. Even I'll say, yeah, we can try that, try this, try that. But for me, I personally don't want to tinker around with the laws or the rules of the game because they are very good at it. And I think the way women's teams have progressed from at least more than a decade now, if you see, they've become better at whatever the laws of the game have been, or rather the sharing for whatever the men's games rules are. I think we don't need to tinker around much. The difference is in the size of the boundary, the size of the cricket ball that you play in, and that kind of difference is good enough.
Okay. So another reader named Arya has sent in three questions for you. I'll
Hmm.
break them down. So the first question is, since T20 cricket has arrived, Test cricket
Hmm.
has been on the decline, losing its followers. Is it because of the lack of quality players and bowlers?
Uh, Test cricket has been on the decline, not because of the just because of the standard of play, also because a lot of people don't want to watch 4 days or 5 days of Test match cricket. 4 day I mentioned because women teams play 4 day games, and a lot many teams are not even lasting 5 days. If you have a very bowler friendly pitch, well, they don't even last 5 days. So That's one of the reasons. And plus also, because there is no audience, less audience, because people don't come much to the stadiums to watch it, not everywhere in the world. That's the reason for the decline of Test cricket. And yes, I do agree that to some level there has been the skill levels as well.
Okay. So his next question is, who do you think are the Fab Four in women's cricket? I think we can open this up to across time. So across time, let's say, who are your Fab Four in women's cricket? I have a feeling
Uh,
Belinda Clark is going to be there.
Absolutely. You're talking about women players, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Belinda Clark is top notch. Number one on my list. Number two will be Karen Rolton, again from Australia, former Australian captain. Well, I will also say Susie Bates, the present very acclaimed name in New Zealand women's cricket. She's been a former captain of the New Zealand women's team. So she'll definitely be one of those names on that list. Let's not miss out Mithali Raj. She's also been a very long warrior for the Indian team. So for sure, there'll be these kind of players will definitely make my cut.
All right. Somebody is asking us Indian Fab Four. Do you have a Indian specific tailored list?
Yes, at the moment I'll stick with right at the top. I'll take both Smriti Mandhana and Shafali Verma. Again, Harmanpreet Kaur will make the cut, and if I can just increase a little, because Shafali was not there earlier. Now I think you should count her, and otherwise I'll also add Deepti Sharma and Poonam Yadav. So these five players at the moment, yeah, you
That's a
can,
powerful
yeah,
list. All right. So
yeah.
this third question is, this is from Arya. So the list of your achievements just goes on and on. An
Mhm.
international cricketer, an MBA holder, a co-author of a book dealing with women's cricket, a popular face in the commentary box. What's next for Anjum Chopra? A biopic?
Somebody's doing that? I don't know.
Somebody's.
Arya probably know. Arya can probably put in a word. There are a lot of biopics being made. There's no harm floating one more around.
But if there were a biopic being made, who would you rather portray you in your biopic?
That's something that I always felt that Rani Mukherjee has done already a cricket film, so she knows how to play cricket. But that is only if she's interested in doing another one, and a more technical one now, though. The earlier one was a little basic one. But other than that, I think it'll be a very nice call for. I always feel the directors and the people who creative guys who would decide this entire thing have a face in mind, and they know exactly which kind of a person would portray a persona on screen. So I think I can leave it to them to decide. They're the experts in this field, not me.
Okay, so let me just now get a few questions from the comments. They have been flooding us with comments ever since we started. So one of the comments here from Gaurav Tandon 8988 is, when can we see some women and men playing together? Do you see that happening?
They play together in the nets, in the casual. When I say casual, means obviously in practice nets and in training sessions in academies. Men's and women's players play together. Not the Indian players, but yes. I mean, I've all my life I've played in a men's academy. So I've bowled to boys. I've played against senior players as well. So that really happens. But again, if you're talking about a men's Indian team versus an Indian team, mixed and playing together, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. It'll really take a while for that to happen. It needs to be some very major cause where you see men's and women players coming in together and playing that game.
So Vaidya underscore Sanket underscore 4 asks, how does it feel to be active on such a competitive level for
Hmm.
so long? What is the effect of injuries on performance, and how did you overcome that?
Well, yes, you get injured, and the moment you start training, the moment you start pushing your body to a certain limit where it's not used to, you pick up injuries. Even I did. It's just about making sure that you recover. You do the things that your physio or your doctors advise you to do that. You recover and you become stronger and come back. That's the only thing you can do. And as far as keeping yourself motivated, it's largely self-motivation.
Someone's asked, how did you feel about receiving the Arjuna Award and the Padma Shri? So, what I want to
Brilliant.
ask you is, when you got the call or when you got the message, what was that initial reaction like? Or who was the first person that you told? And what was that phone call like when you called someone and went like, listen, this is happening? So, what was that
No
experience?
one, no one in the last 13 years has ever asked me this question. So the first person who's actually asked me this question. It's very good because people say, how does it feel to receive an Arjuna Award? And then you can only say great. I mean, that's the only word. But so it's a very nice question. I was actually shopping in South Extension that time when I received that call. And it was my
Did you tell the
friend's,
shopkeeper, Ari?
he's my friend and he's my stylist as well. So I was in his store. There's an earlier store. So the phone was buzzing from my friend GS Vivek, who works now with, I think, one of the channels. He was earlier with Indian Express or Pioneer, I think somewhere. So he gave me a call and I was like, yes, GS, what happened? He says, I want to tell you something that I'm the first person to inform you that the list has come out and your name is there to receive the Arjuna Award. So I said, okay, okay. He says, I'm not joking, I'm actually serious. I said, are you sure? I said, yes. So I said, thank you so much. And I remember, because his shop is in the lower, I won't say lower basement or basement or whatever, the lower ground floor. So I was standing right under the steps and because that's the only place I could get the signal. So I was talking to him and that's the time that he told me. And I was like very happy. My mother was with me at that time because we were, getting some clothes styled. So at that point of time, I just shared the news with her, and yeah, obviously it was a very, very happy moment. It's kind of moment which probably is difficult to explain, but it's like you start jumping from within and like, yay, yay, yay. You obviously can't be jumping around the street because the others wouldn't understand the happiness. It seems like it's pretty fake, but from inside, you just feel like your heart is pumping so hard and you're jumping around with joy and you just feel like on top of the world and you actually feel like that. And everything seems so nice and glorious, which actually is. And that's the time you actually realize that it's all in the mind. So if you can feel nice and glorious at that point of time, why do you need to wait for a phone call to make you actually feel like that most of the time during the day?
That is so beautiful. I think, guys, if you all have more questions for Anjum, please do send them in. I think we have a few more minutes before. So there's just so much, there's an outpour of love for you in these comments. There are many
Thank
questions.
you.
It's just, Anjum ma'am, we love you. Anjum ma'am, we love you.
Thank you
Somebody
so
has
much.
asked, if you weren't a cricketer, what
Mhm.
would be your second option? This is from Ganem 2.0.
Uh, I never thought of it. Probably I would have continued playing basketball because I was playing basketball right up to my college and university level. So when I had to make a choice was when I had to go and normally the inter-universities happen at the same time. So my cricket universities and the basketball universities, every sport happens at the same time. So they were all in the month of somewhere around October, November. So I could only go for either or. And I had to choose cricket because of A, that I wanted to, but the another big thing was that if I had not gone and played for universities, then onwards, the performance gets counted for state selections and so on and so forth. So with basketball, that was it. Even if I had played universities, I was not inclined on going and playing for an Indian team. So that's how I decided to continue playing cricket. Although I still do play basketball when I go back to my college, we play for the alumni team, so it's good fun.
What's that like, going back to college? And it must be,
Um, Yeah. Oh, it is.
yeah,
St.
it must be
Stephen's
a very fun
College
experience.
organizes a basketball tournament every year, and it invites the alumni, the former players, to come in and play as an alumni team. So we have the youngest one, whoever has just passed out the previous year, to the eldest one, who passed out like nearly 2 decades back. Everyone out there, whoever can make it, because largely those games are organized on the weekend. But then when we qualify for the semis and the finals or something like that, because we do pretty good team in the alumni setup as well. So then we make it like an event for like 4 or 5 days. We make it out as an event, and it's good fun to go and play. Meet people who've been who's a younger batch, or even interact with those who are from the older batch. So it's like kind of a reunion, and it's very exciting because you're back on the courts. You think you're the same player, but you're actually not. But it's nice. It's a nice experience.
Okay, on that note, Anjum, I want to say that it doesn't matter if you played basketball or the fact that you actually played cricket. I think you would, regardless, just be an inspiration. If you chose basketball today, I feel like would be in a different place in this country. So I just want to say you are an inspiration,
Thank
and
you.
you are truly a blessing to this country. Thank you so much for joining us
Thank you.
today. And I hope you have a good evening. I hope you stay safe. Once again,
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, and thanks for the nice words.
Thank you. See you.
Cheers. Bye.